This is evening of Friday, May 29, 2026. This video is not about promoting a tribe or trying to bring down another tribe or promoting someone or trying to bring down another person. But it's all about the reality that is happening as I'm speaking to you now. Nigeria have an Igbo problem. And I believe that you must have been hearing this from so many people. So I'm not the first person that you are hearing this from. Nigeria have an Igbo problem which emanated from a deep-rooted either hate or misunderstanding. I cannot even call it misunderstanding. I think it is hatred. Now, a few days ago, this movement, Marcel, let me put it in that way so that people who have been hearing the name will understand the group I'm talking about. Marcel published something that tomorrow being 30th of May, that they are going to remember the fallen heroes during the Biafra war, like they used to do it every year. So they directed that this memorial should take place in so many places, including churches and so on and so forth. Now, that one is for Marcel, but this is a general something that Igbos observe every May 30th. It did not start today. It started for a very long time ago. Now, people don't have problem with that because this is what they observe every year peacefully. And apart from that, this is something that is deep-rooted in our culture. In our culture, we remember dead ones. Like you will see a family after 10 years, 20 years, their father passed away. They will organize a memorial to remember the kind of life their father lived, to do the memorial. Now, talk less of a memorial of more than 3 million people during the war. Guess what? The Nigerian soldier, I'm sorry to use the word Nigerian soldiers, because when I'm talking about Nigerian soldiers, meaning I'm not talking about the institution. I'm talking about Nigerian army. They assume a jurisdiction that is not constitutionally their function to come out to say that Marcel don't have right to tell people to do the ceremony on May 30th. I said, what is wrong with these people? What is your business with a memorial that people want to do? The memorial of their loved ones, the memorial of like the dead ones. What is wrong with you? What is the problem on about? In Abia State last year, I was perceiving a chaos before Alex Oti issued a statement that anybody that want to do memorial should go ahead and do memorial. As far as you are doing a memorial and you are doing a peaceful memorial, that he don't have any problem with anybody doing memorial. That was where the Nigerian soldiers withdrew because they were trying to, like the way they used to do things now, clap down innocent people in the name of these people are promoting Biafra. See, there is nothing you are going to do that can stop all this ideology. You better learn how to accept the reality. Because if tomorrow it is going to, by the way, I am a part of another program that we are going to host tomorrow. And the title of the program is Unspoken Igbo Genocide. Unspoken Igbo Genocide. The genocide that happened during the war, what people are not telling you. So don't let people to tell your stories. I heard about the documentary that the BBC is trying to put out. And some people are at suspense and people don't really know what they're about to dish out to the public. But guess what? Some people are on a red alert, waiting for them to publish any nonsense so that they will counter it. However, there are so many books, so many stories that, that have described everything that happened during the Biafra war. And tomorrow in our program, this is not about BBC. This is not about one person coming to write a story. We are going to bring veterans who fought the war. People who fought the war will come and tell you stories. Why they fought the war, why the war started, and the reason why Nigeria is not sustainable with all this kind of thing going on. So that is the program we are going to host tomorrow. It will be on Zoom. I am looking forward to streaming it live on this platform. That is, the possibility of doing it is high, but I don't know how it's going to be anyway. But I'll try my best to bring it, to film it here. So the stories of the horrors that happened, like in my state, in Delta State, a lot of things happen, not because soldiers were fighting, not because Nigerian soldiers and Biafran soldiers were fighting. No. Asaba massacre, the grave is still there. The names of people who died in Asaba massacre is still there. Okay, you can go to Asaba and see my state capital and see what I'm talking about. What happened? Nigerian troops were coming. Now, there was a lie that was told to people. My father told me stories about what happened. They told so many people to deny that they are not Igbos, to embrace the federal troops. So they denied that they are not Igbos. So they were, as the federal troops, I mean Nigerian soldiers, Nigerian army, as they were coming towards the Niger Bridge, towards Onitsha. So these people came out to embrace them with white note. Yeah, welcome, federal troops, welcome, welcome. The enemy knows you. You can deny your identity, but your enemy knows you. No, they said these are the, these are, what is it called? Nzogun people now. Nzogun is from Okmanam. Then you from Asaba. You said you are not an Igbo person. They open fire on them. They kill more than 1,000 people. Even people who have not died, they buried them alive. They said Nzogun led the coup that they called Igbo coup. Nzogun is from Okmanam. And after Okmanam Asaba, someone from Asaba is trying to tell them that you are not an Igbo. It's not their fault. That is what they were told to say. You can also hear from Delta North Senator now, ex-Regina Dine's husband, Pa Nedi Nwoku. Nedi Nwoku will tell you that we were told, he was talking about life story, we were told to deny being an Igbo person. I hope you're understanding. So that the federal troop could pass. My father told me how someone saved him. You understand? And when they came, they were looking for, where is that Igbo man? You understand? So these are the stories that people have to tell. People who fought the war have to tell the story. And there is no one that can tell the story more than them. So the Nigerian soldiers just coming out to say rubbish, that people should not remember their loved ones who have died in a way they like. As far as you are not doing violence, you have the right to remember them if you want to go to church. In fact, even the church, like Catholic Church, they used to do All Saints Day, memorial of this saint, memorial of this one. They remember the dead people. So if you are a Muslim, or it's not in your culture, and you are a Nigerian soldier, you are a Nigerian high-ranking officer, because you are not from the Southeast and it's not in your culture, you are not a Christian, then you want to think that the way other cultures and other religion is, that is the way you are going to impose on people. It is not going to work for you, okay? It is not going to work for you. So these are the things you expect tomorrow, stories and stories about what transpired before. Like this story you're about to watch. Take a listen.
Sharing parts of my mother's story from the Biafran War, the Nigerian Civil War, and I'll be reading as her voice. Nigerian troops snuck into Asaba and camped at St. Patrick's College. A series of shell explosions, and my mother suggested we run to her brother's house. Her brother, Oba Madwe, one of a few people in Asaba, with a large secure gate. A multitude of people were on the run as well. It was chaos. People were running to different directions. We ran for about 4 miles when we stumbled upon a troop of soldiers in a pickup van. They yelled something in Hausa language, pointed their guns at us, and rounded us up for St. Patrick's. On arrival, it seemed as if the whole Asaba town was there at St. Patrick's. At this point, my mother's state of panic has started showing on her face. She kept scanning the faces of the crowd, maybe hoping to see my second elder sister, Udeka, and my younger brother. They had gone to visit an ill relative. It all felt like a dream, especially when we had spent days and months at St. Patrick's, what we call the civilian camp. Food was rationed, we couldn't wash for days on end. Suddenly, all women and girls were separated from the men. The women were taken to St. Joseph Mission near Nekab, while the men and boys were left at St. Patrick's College. We hadn't seen my brother yet. We hadn't walked a mile when somebody yanked my hand away from my mother's and butted his gun on my buttocks. I winced. I couldn't look the soldier in the eye. "Follow me," he said. My mother pleaded with him to take her instead. He ignored her and dragged me out of a crowd. I didn't think twice. I took off. I ran as fast as I could, even as I prayed that he would not shoot me. He didn't shoot. I ran into what seemed like a forest. I didn't know where I was running to, but I knew I had to escape. After I covered a good distance, I stopped. I was out of breath, but cautious. The explosions were relentless. In spite of the shelling, I ran into a boy and a girl, perhaps siblings, who were so carried away by the sight of a fighting jet that they waved at it in awe. I looked up briefly too, but when I stepped on a corpse, I took off running again. My eyes welled up with tears. There were dozens of dead people across the paths I ran. When I heard a loud chant of Mankumansu, Kashesu, Nyamiri, not wanting to be discovered, I ran to a tree and stood still till the chant subsided. With my eyes still welled up, I noticed an older woman beckoning at me to come. I wiped my eyes to be sure I was seeing a human being. She persisted. I ran to her and she ignored me. And she guided me to a thatched house. The house was filled with women. To my utter surprise, my sister Udeka was there. She said that she left my brother at our relative's place. We clung on to each other, talking loudly. The women told us to be quiet. The largest woman in the room asked us to sit on the floor. I was whispering about how I escaped from a soldier when a rumble of explosions and shelling erupted. I kept quiet. The large woman assured me that I could talk, but not too loudly. With more shelling explosions, everywhere was quiet. Then a shell explosion ripped through the distance, but it had pierced through our roof and landed on the large woman's left hand. Half of her hand was on the floor. The stump that was left of that hand was gushing blood. Instantly, a pool of blood settled around her feet. Two women tore off the edges of their wrapper and tied the bleeding hand. They wrapped the arm firm and held it up. The bleeding reduced but never stopped. That was enough incident to make us decide to find our way to St. Joseph. Wide-eyed, I clung to my sister, even as I whispered to her about how worried our mother must be about my brother. She told me it would be all right. Because we had been hiding, it was decided that we find a way to sneak back to St. Joseph, because if we were caught as escapees, we might be executed. We were barely at St. Joseph premises when a short, chubby woman called my name. Are you not Wansokansube? I didn't answer. They have been dragging your mother and your sister around the whole town, threatening to kill them if they don't find you. A whelp escaped from my mouth, but Udeka placed her hand on my mouth. The lady volunteered to take us to where they were kept with the soldiers watching over them. I hurried to them, but before I could collapse in their arms, three soldiers grabbed me. One slapped me, another slammed his rifle on my breast. So you can run, he said. He cupped my breast with a smack. You can run with these big things, he said, jiggling them. However, another, the tallest of them, told him to stop. He had called him Peter and I was surprised at his reaction. They bragged about how they have had many girls, even those that willingly offered themselves to save their families' lives. But Peter told them to hands off me and my family, that we were his. They teased him about how greedy he was. He wanted 4 women all to himself. He pointed his gun at us and promised to teach us a lesson. Then he walked us to a deserted area. I could hear the screams of women pleading for mercy. Goosebumps spread all over my body, and I remembered why I was bent on escaping. I tried to swallow the pain on their behalf, but a lump of saliva stuck on my throat. That might be my fate, my sister's and my mother's. As he walked us further out of St. Joseph camp, another soldier followed him closely, and they spoke in Hausa. I stared at my sister, Nkonya Aswa, to see if she understood what they were saying. As a teenage bride, Nkonya Aswa had lived in Kaduna with her late husband. She could understand the language and spoke it fluently, but she frowned at me. My mother broke down and pleaded with them to let her see her son before they killed him. My sister acted as an interpreter. Surprisingly, they both said something to each other. Their language this time was not Hausa, as my sister confirmed. It was a strange language. A few minutes into our walk, a truck full of soldiers stopped right in front of us. A spatter of exchanges in Hausa language ensued. Nkonya Aswa's eyes brightened. She asked Peter a question in Hausa, but other soldiers hushed her up. My mother warned her to not get us into further trouble. Nkonya Aswa revealed that the elders of Asaba had called for an end to the violence, and the Nigerian side had invited all men to Obosowe for peace talks. I could have sworn I saw a smile on my mother's face. She called on Onishe, our river goddess, to save us. Nkonya Aswa said that they had asked them to set us free. Nkonya Aswa requested that they set us free since the peace talk was on the way, but the 2 soldiers spat on her face. Peter looked away. They took us back to St. Patrick's College. Then Peter said he had granted my mother's wish to see her son. We were separated as they asked me to be the only one to identify my brother. We looked for hours but could not find him. I was so hungry. I begged Peter to find me something to eat, but he asked me to choose between finding my brother or something to eat. We were heading to the last building that we hadn't searched. I wanted to see how loose his grip was when I took my hand, because I was planning for another escape. He kicked me on my legs and my hunger seemed to have disappeared. My brother was in the last building We entered. He was snoozing in a corner. I screamed as soon as I saw him. We hugged each other, but the soldiers separated us. They took us back to where they left my mother and my sisters, then headed to one of their bays at Umuago. They had forcefully taken the Onyeawa family home, as they did with many other homes. We were shoved into a room and locked up. We were there but lost touch of time. However, Peter was faithful with bringing us food, but we had only a bucket to urine and shit. So most times the stench was unbearable. My mother was the only one allowed to take out the feces. When my sisters and I bled during our periods, our wrappers were soaked with blood. Our bloody wrappers were not the least of our problems. On the day Peter asked us to come out of a room, the air didn't smell fresh. Corpses were littered all over the landscape. I felt a lump of vomit in my throat. Vultures competed with jet planes in the sky, while some vultures hovered, many jabbed at bloated human flesh. We were in a state of confusion and shock, unsure of what Peter wanted to do with us. We were taken back to St. Joseph, where we were told that the call for peace was a ruse to massacre men and boys above the age of 10. I have only 1 minute, so I'll just sum up what I have left. My mother was kidnapped with her family or taken captive by the military man who happens to be my father, because he had seen her and he liked her. And he didn't reveal all of this to them until the war more or less subsided or moved eastward. So at the end of the story, what my mother ended with was that when the Niger Bridge was blown up by Biafrans to prevent the encroaching Nigerian soldiers, it was said that Onishe helped Asaba people to prevent the soldiers from coming back, because for every boat that was crossing, she stopped and beckoned at them to keep coming forward to her, but the boats were sinking, so that the Nigerian soldiers were forced to find another route to the east, but not through Asaba. I think they headed north or south, as she said. So that's the end of my story, and thank you for listening.